Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about breaking down a big river for big smallmouth as always, but the lesson that I want to start this video with is that there are no rules, especially in spring fishing, because if I had stuck to my preconceived notions about where river smallmouth should be in the spring, I probably wouldn't have had one of the best big fish days that I've ever had out on the river. So having said that, I do want to warn you guys, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my strategies that I employ when I'm tackling a big stretch of river, especially a new stretch of river this time of year. But we will get to more fishing later on in the video that's going to be uninterrupted by my voice. I promise. Just stick around for it. It'll be worth it. So when it comes to tackling a big body of water in the spring, there are a few things I like to do to get an idea of where the quality smallmouth are hanging out. First, I want to check areas where I know some fish winter, or at least the last place I caught them in the late fall. Because after ice out, fish will still be hanging in these areas, waiting to make their next big moves toward areas where they can feed more heavily in order to prepare themselves for the spawn. If there are still quality fish hanging in these areas, take your time and pick them apart one by one. But if you find numerous small fish or disappointing numbers, and the conditions have really been good for fishing, then I think it's time to move along. While I don't have the evidence to completely support it, my theory is that the mature fish are the first ones to make significant seasonal movements. In most of the big and small rivers that I fish, the first seasonal movement is going to be upstream. Fish are typically coming from flowages above dams or bigger water that tributaries flow into. And once smallmouth are on the move, they can move incredibly large distances. In fact, a 2003 study done on Mississippi River smallmouth in Minnesota found that some fish can move up to 18 miles from wintering areas to spawning areas. In this study, Eric Altena found that spring migrations to spawning areas occurred as early as the 28th of March and extended through the 24th of May. Keeping this in mind, in the spring, I'm mostly looking for feeding areas along a migration route, regardless of whether it's 2 miles or 18 miles away from their starting location. I'm not necessarily looking for their end destination, although it certainly doesn't hurt to fish near known spawning areas. But either way, fish are going to stop in suitable habitat to feed and bulk up for the spawn. And in my experience, the first ones to show up are the big ones. I think we're going to see that later in the video, so stick around. Now that we've gotten the theory out of the way, let's go ahead and focus on this specific trip this spring up in the Northwoods. Keep in mind, it's about mid-April. We did check the winter holes and the fish just weren't there. Instead, they started their spring movements, and many of the fish we found seemed to want to be hanging near the faster current in relative terms. We actually hit one section of river with very few areas that had faster flows, as most of it was deep with pretty consistent depth. We got some clues here and there, catching fish that were hanging out in rocky areas with current seams and adjacent slack water, but we ultimately decided to leave the area and fish a different section of river with more diversity in terms of flow and cover. Speaking of diversity, there's always a lot of water to choose from on a big river, and in order to be successful in the spring, you want to make sure you're fishing areas where the nature of the river is right. When I say nature of the river, I mean looking at the river at the macro level and classifying it by its different features. Some sections may be slow and sandy, others might be fast and rocky, some might be deep, and some might be shallow. Sections of river that have certain characteristics can be both long or short, so knowing how your river changes and where it changes is extremely important. In the spring, you need to narrow down what sections of river are the most productive for you and try to characterize it by its nature. Once you've done this, you can look for similar sections of river and explore those in order to intercept fish on the move. Of course there's one in that eddy. There has to be one in that eddy. They don't live anywhere else. That's the only place they live down here. Oh, it's a tank. Looks like he's hooked good. But I will snatch you up. X80 trick darter, man, just does some work. Alright guys, we actually had to change spots. The first one just wasn't doing it for us. We caught a couple fish, but weren't feeling it. Weren't finding them the way we wanted to. Down here we thought we could find some pre-spawners in some likely pre-spawn locations. This one is probably shy of 20 inches, but I'll go back up and show you guys where I caught this one. Very good fish on the X80 trick darter, jerk baiting. It's 48-degree water temperatures and they're still willing to come out and hit a moving bait pretty good. Let's get this one back in. It's like 1.7 right here now. Five feet right here though.
We're in the trough part.
We're troughing.
We're troughing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the key to spring fishing is troughing.
Ain't nothing better than a good trough.
Just find the trough and fish it all day. Oh, she is deep.
Let's get into 4 feet now.
It looked like there's a fish too on the graph. Either that or debris.
There's the log.
Oh yeah. Oh, there she is. That's another big one, dude. Watch that happen.
Might your stay with right next.
Steady troughing. Was there a log there?
Yeah. There's a couple. There's some boulders all over.
Not too much smaller than the other one, a little bit. Fat pre-spawner though. Finding the rocks and the current changes. I mean, this water is shallow, guys. It's like up here, it is the second week of April. I mean, there could be a foot of snow still on the ground some years. And so I really don't think most of the time that you could come up this time of the year and be catching them exactly where we are. But when you have that warming trend in the spring, we've had a couple of really warm spells. That's definitely allowed this water to get warmer a little quicker than it has normally, I would say. And so that's pushed the fish up into areas where you might not find them in early April, but they're definitely there. So there are no rules in fishing. Just go out and figure out what they're doing. From this vantage point, I'm hoping you guys can see how this water out here looks different than this water over here to the right. It's a lot slower here on the right, and it does get shallower, but we were joking earlier about the trough, but it actually is a little bit deeper right along that transition from the slow water to the fast water. There's about 4 to 5 feet of depth, whereas like out here, it's like more 5 or 6, and then up on the bank, just 1 or 2. Yeah, even this one up here looks good. It looks good for a reason. Meat. Meat. This thing is freezing. Trick darter, getting it done today. Don't even know what color this is. I just know it's a Mega Bass X80 trick darter. I don't think they're too worried about what color the bait is at the moment.
Look at the top right now.
Trout. On. Did a smallie really just eat the top over there? I mean, do only big smallies live here? This might be the biggest of today. Troughing it. Troughing it, baby.
Oh, baby.
It's another big one, I'm pretty sure. Oh, yeah. This might be even bigger. Oh. Are you serious? And in the cheek. Dude, that thing is fat.
Oh, yeah. Doubled up.
Doubled up. What is wrong with this place? While we may not have known it at the time, in nearly every single spot that had stronger current relative to the water around it, there were quality smallmouth hanging around if the depth and the substrate were right. Most of the channels in this river section had an average depth of about 2 feet or less, and because I know you guys can't see the depth, I can tell you that access to that 4 or 5 foot water was the sweet spot, with the fish often hanging out near the transition from deep to shallow. But as the day went on and the water warmed up and the sun hit certain banks, the fish definitely pushed up into the shallow side to await their next meal. In the spring, I think river fishing can be really simple in terms of looking for the right kind of water, and I think you'll see some common denominators among the productive spots we zeroed in on this night. Once you find the secret sauce, you can typically rinse and repeat, and we thought we had found it. Given that we only had a couple of evening hours the night before to figure the bite out, we really wanted to go back the next day to test our findings. And throughout the day, we basically cycled through all of the spots that met our pre-spawn river requirements that we found the night before. Proximity to increased flow, access to depth, correct substrate, and current breaks. Once it was clear that most of the quality fish could easily be found in these areas, I literally didn't even waste a single cast in what I thought was unproductive water. We fished, caught, moved on to another spot so things could rest, and then came back for more after hitting 3 or 4 other locations.
Right. Oh, caught it when I was reeling it in. He was way back.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna reel in.
That's the smallmouth doing the turning. Oh, the second hook just came out. Not a bad one. 19 even. I feel like I caught this one yesterday. Attaboy. Soaking it? Oh,
I wasn't even moving it. It just went thump.
pulled off.
God damn it.
I think you had a stick on top of the fish.
Had to have been.
Because I saw green.
I mean, I was just sitting there just thinking about my day and not moving the bait whatsoever. And smoked it. Across it. There it is.
We got them fired up at least. This one's pretty good. This one might be big. On my first fish on the Helgramite. Giant, dude.
You're welcome. No.
Like,
Kidding.
I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. This could be like a 21 incher. This one got a little bit jealous of that last fish you caught.
Could be the same
Or
one.
it could be the same one. Are you serious right now? Look at that thing just all the way through his lip, just steady. Crazy. Super crazy.
While most of the spots we came back to fit my description of a classic spring location, there was one that didn't quite fit in with the rest. Looking here, you can probably see a clear difference. Lots of higher flow with no visible current breaks and current seams that are fairly hard to define. In the second week of April, this would be a spot that would be pretty low on my list of areas to fish, but moving forward, I should probably change that. In my mind, they just shouldn't really have been here. But given that we had had numerous above average days in terms of temperature, it makes sense that fish may have been on the move a bit early. The water temps we were fishing range from 45 to 48, and to be honest, if they weren't much above 40, I would have a hard time believing that the same number of fish would be here. But fishing this spot and learning that it holds this quality of fish early in the year, I know one thing is for certain, I'm definitely going to be checking those faster water areas so that I can intercept big smallmouth in the springtime.
needed a little change of scenery. It's a big one. Dude, that's a 5-pounder. That's a 5.
Get over here.
Dude, that is a tank. It's all about those bands.
The most important thing to remember when looking at water like this is that there are different bands of current moving at different speeds. Some of these are created by the water that is more concentrated as it flows down, while others may be created by depth changes and bottom structure. If we take a look at this rapids area, we can see that the surface has different appearances in different areas. These differences on the surface tell us that something is different underneath the water. Generally speaking, spring fish are still going to be positioning themselves around these transitions, so that's where you would want to be fishing. I'll be the first to admit that this kind of location didn't really fit into my assumptions about spring fishing, so it's good to remind ourselves at times that there are no rules governing where fish should be.
Hey, we're on again. Smacking them. On again. Ooh, that's a tank. What is going on today? What is happening? These fish are hungry. These fish want to eat. Goodness. Oh my God.
This might be our 5-pounder.
That might be the 21-incher, dude.
20 3/4.
For the trough, what do you think? Shallow, all right for the trough?
Shallow's all right for the trough.
They'll probably be on the shallow side anyway by now.
Yeah. Yep.
Feels big. Oh my God, that's another tank, dude. Yeah, just jump right in the boat, please. Thank you. I guess the shallow's okay.
Yeah. Oh. I need to be gentle.
That was another big one.
That did happen.
Settle down, buddy. Okay, you're gone. All right, before I get to this last spot, which you guys have already seen, I just want to say, wow, this day has been insane. This might be the best single day of smallmouth fishing on the river that I've had my whole life. Jeff just caught another 20. I think both of us are close to a 20-pound bag for 5 fish. We've been weighing them. We've been measuring them. Between today and yesterday, I think I've got 4 over 20, 3 or 4 over 20. Today, my best was a 5 and then multiple 4s. I think, honestly, 4 4-pounders with 1 5. Multiple over 20, a lot in that 19 range. We just have not really, I swear, we have not caught small fish. The first one this morning was like a 16-ish. That was the only fish I think that we caught that was under 17, and Jeff's 17.25 was still over 3 pounds. We weighed it. So the quality of the fish out here has been insane. They are eating, they are heavy. It is spring. Go fishing, come on.